Tonight, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Emmanuel Amakofibua lays fresh minerals and mining royalty regulations before Parliament 19 days after withdrawing the Ewoya lithium mining deal on controversy over low royalty rate and call for full government participation.
Today, I'm proud to say that I have brought an elaborate regulation that gives us a sliding scale agreement. When the price, for example, in the lithium agreement was negotiated, even when we get to 2,500, we achieve 10%. When we get to 3,000 because of the sliding scale, 3,000 plus, we'll go to 12%.
We have details plus reaction from the minority who argue that the deal undermines the public interest and weakens confidence in the country's resource governance framework.
Because the government is playing some mind games with us and the whole country. You don't need Einstein to come and tell you that the whole thing smells. There is something wrong somewhere. There is something fishy somewhere. And it's for Ghanaians to decide. It's for Ghanaians to make the noise.
Top story, as always, is brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies and holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. My name is Fostina Sarfo. Please stay for details. Thanks for choosing us. Tonight, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibua, has laid a fresh minerals and mining royalty regulation before Parliament. The new bill seeks to introduce variable royalty bands for gold, lithium and other minerals. The legislative instrument establishes a sliding scale framework that allows royalty rates to be adjusted in line with fluctuations in global commodity prices. This follows a previous withdrawal of the Ewoya lithium mining deal and stakeholder engagement with CSOs and the communities on the controversy over low royalty rate and call for full government participation. Early last week, the Lands and Natural Resources Committee met a number of CSOs over the royalty rate saga, where Imani Africa, for instance, suggested a sliding scale royalty system which they believe could inure to government's benefit than a fixed scale. Well, listen to the senior research associate at Imani Africa, Dennis Asare, make his presentation to the committee.
Should prices go as low as 800, we believe that at a royalty rate of 10%, the net margin is 110. And that if we charge a royalty rate of 5%, it then reduces how much the country can get. And at a royalty rate of 10%, we could be making around $80 per ton. But the company's net margin is going to be around $110. But if we charge 5%, then it gives us $40 per ton. Then the net margin of the company then becomes the $150 per ton. Now, if you come to the current price, that's the recovery, and we call it recovery because at the spot level, this is the price between 1,000 to 1,002. Even at the recovery level, that is the current spot price. And if you look at the 10% royalty rate that was in the previous agreement, it gives us $120 per ton, and the net margin is $470. But if you charge 5%, then it minimizes how much the company would have given to the country. And so our argument is that the royalty rate that we put in agreement should reflect the market dynamics. And that's why we are proposing for the sliding scale with a minimum floor of 10%, which means that even if the price should crash below 1,000 at 10%, the net margin is very positive. And that is because the mine, if you look at the way the cost mine and the geology of the Ewoya mine, it posts one of the low production cost profile, which means that it is very cheaper to produce compared to other mines or other lithium mines across the world based on the company's own estimation. But we should set a minimum floor of 10% so that, and a sliding scale condition that if prices go beyond a specific margin, the country is able to cover more.
Well, the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, for instance, believes Ghana must move beyond royalties and own its own resources. Let's listen to Dr. Charles Mensah, who is an economist and founder of IA. He also spoke at that committee engagement.
Our estimation of this lithium is 172 billion US dollars. That's the total, the value of what is. If you take the quantum that has been described by the lithium company, by the Australian company, they're saying they are finding a quantum of 1.6 billion tons. Now, there's a conversion ratio to convert from the raw lithium to what they sell is called lithium carbonate. So the process is to convert your raw lithium to lithium carbonate. That conversion ratio is about 5.3. When you do that calculation, and today's value of lithium is about 90,000 US dollars, you're looking at about $172 billion as of today. A few months ago, it was even higher. It was about $240 billion. Prices have gone down. It's about $172 billion. This is the value of what we have. Should we give this to Atlantic, Mr. Atlantic and his friends? That's the question we have to ask.
Well, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins me in the studio just to give us details as to what exactly transpired today on the floor of Parliament. The minister came back to Parliament today with the deal, the new LI. What is his justification? What are details of it?
So we know that just a couple of days back, the government withdrew that LI because they said they wanted to do further consultations on that. Today, we have what is now called the sliding scale, which will alternate really. If the prices of the commodities up, then the kind of royalty the country will be getting is also high. Listen to the lands minister himself explain why this has become necessary and why he thinks this is a better deal for the country.
Today I'm proud to say that I have brought an elaborate regulation that gives us a sliding scale agreement. What is the advantage in that? The advantage is that it allows the state to capture the benefit in good times. Like in the gold sector, and I have to tell you, we've done it across the mineral sector. In the gold sector, for example, when the price, for example, in the lithium agreement was negotiated, at that time, lithium was $3,000. They achieved 3,000. They achieved 10%. But today, with the sliding scale I've brought, even when we get to 2,500, we achieve 10%. When we get to 3,000 because of the sliding scale, 3,000 plus, we'll go to 12%. In fact, if you do the calculation, at that point, it means that 3,000 government is saving almost over $500 million. And so this sliding scale, but let me also say that this sliding scale also gives the companies consideration when prices tumble in difficult times. Then the adjustment will automatically also favor a lower royalties. What is important for investors? It gives them certainty. Certainty. They are very sure that in Ghana, when the price tumble, we will not be in trouble because the government automatically will reduce royalties. When the prices go up, the government will also take advantage and capture the benefit. And I'm very happy today that we've strengthened it. We've even had provision in the lithium agreement that I've laid today. Infrastructure provisions was not in the 2023 agreement. It is in now.
Well, I still have with me Kweku Asante in the studio. Kweku, I'm quite interested in the details of this LI. What exactly have we found based on your digging?
So if you look at the schedule, and this is something that we've just secured a copy of. For instance, it starts from gold. When the price of gold per ounce is $1,900 or anything within that range, the applicable royalty now is 5% as per this. And then if it is above $1,900 and then not more than $2,000, it's 6.0%. and then it goes like that: $2,000, $2,500, 7%, $2,500 to $3,000, 8%, $3,000 to $3,500, 9%, $3,500 to $4,000 an ounce, 10%, and then the ceiling is, if it is above 4,500, that is 12%. Specifically when it comes to lithium, which is the subject of all this conversation, if the spodumene price is $1,500 per ton, the applicable rate is 5%. If the price on the international market is between $1,501 to $2,500, it is 7%. Between $2,501 to $3,000 is 10%. And whenever the prices on the international market is above $3,000, 12%. The government really thinks that this is a better case for them. The minority, however, do not think so. Despite the explanation and the justification offered by the minister on this, the minority still thinks this is a bad deal for the country. Listen to the ranking member and the minority spokesperson on lands and natural resources.
The initial one that the MPP government prepared was on 20th October 2023 and was negotiated with the Barari DV company. At the time, the global price of lithium was approximately $2,250 per ton. By the time the agreement was presented for ratification in Parliament, it was in September 2024. The price of lithium at that time has fallen from the $2,250 to $800 per ton. And here is the good news. Despite this sharp decline in global prices, Barari DV was still prepared to proceed with the 10% arrangement. And I'm saying this portion is extremely important because the government is playing some mind games with us and the whole country. You don't need Einstein to come and tell you that the whole thing smells. There is something wrong somewhere. There is something fishy somewhere. And it's for Ghanaians to decide. It's for Ghanaians to make the noise. No responsible legislator invokes these prohibitions lightly. However, where patterns of decision-making undermines public interest and weaken confidence in resource governance, Parliament has a duty to act. We therefore call on the minister to urgently correct course. This includes decisive and even-handed enforcement against illegal mining, a renegotiated lithium framework that secures improved value for Ghana, and royalty regulations built on transparency, data, and inclusive consultation.
Well, let's delve right into it here on Top Story. Join me now is Franklin Kujo. He's president of Imani Africa. We appreciate your time here on Top Story. You suggested that government adopt a sliding scale royalty system, and you proposed a ceiling of 10%. Now, we're just hearing from government, and they have actually adopted your proposal. But are you comfortable with the percentage they are proposing?
Which I hear is about 7% for now, right? Well, look, first of all, the minister has every right in law to actually decide what percentage he needs to apply, right? So let's not quibble over that. But this conversation must be put in perspective. And the perspective here is simple. Look, the gentleman whose voice we all heard, I think the minority spokesperson on lands and minerals, was spot on. You know why? Because the last time the government wanted to go ahead with this lithium agreement with the company, is right. The price at the time of the ore of lithium, the lithium ore was priced at $800 per ton. And at the time, the cost of producing basically a ton of the ore was also $610 per the company's own calculations or their own figures. I listen carefully. Because I say this because the company told us that it will cost them $610 to produce an ounce of lithium. We don't quarrel with that. There's a reason though. It's cheaper because our ore is really rich and it's really a surface ore. So you don't need too much costly technology to dig it up. So if you realize that between $610 and $800 at the time, the profit margin was barely less than 20%, right? But they were willing to sign in addition to the 10% royalty that they wanted to give. As we speak today, the company's own projections, outreach projections for lithium this year and the following year, is about $1,600 per ton. But it is not the price of lithium today. The price of lithium as we speak right now is hovering around $1,200 per ton. Now imagine, so between last 2 years and now, the price of lithium has jumped from what, 800 to 1,002. Are you following?
Indeed.
Now, between 800 and 1,002, is that not an incremental growth more or less? But this company, so it tells you that, and their cost is still the same. They've still recorded their cost as $610. It tells you that from a less than 20% profit margin, they are making 45% profit margin today. Why on earth would I, as a minister, then come to renegotiate and tell them that, oh, don't give me 10%, even though the price of lithium is higher today than the previous one. So I'll give you, let's start with 7%. I don't think it makes sense to anybody listening to us, right? If the argument of the minister is that, oh, when prices do better, it's a sliding scale, so we'll go up. As we speak, the price has actually gone up between the last administration and today. So do you go back? Do you reverse costs? Does it make sense? I mean, this is basic analysis.
So from where you sit, the current legislative instrument is even defective.
Say again?
From where you sit, the current LI and the proposals that we're bringing forward is already defective for Ghana as a country.
It's defective against data. It's defective against what I call resource economics. It's defective against the context within which we are having this conversation. The last administration, which we even, of course, we quibbled, we disagreed with them in Parliament when we went. They said, no, listen, let's not just talk about royalty. And again, madam, the other mistake they are making is that they are making this whole conversation as if it's about royalty alone. No, it's not just about royalty. We need to understand that there are far more higher values, we are supposed to be getting more value from lithium than the traditional minerals. You know why? Because if you don't add the processing bit to it, my sister, you're not going anywhere. The reason why China is the powerhouse of the world when it comes to rare earths minerals is because they process 90% of the oil in this world. That's why Donald Trump was making noise that, oh, he's going to fight China. The Chinese said they will not export rare earth minerals. He quickly backed down because he knows that the processing capacity is what gives you value. As you speak, in this agreement, what is the conversation about the processing aspect of the mineral? Don't forget, lithium is a green mineral. Its chemical properties are far different from the other minerals. So the more variance of the lithium you find, the higher the value. You'll be surprised one day we'll be here and lithium carbonates could go up to about 100,000. Then you say what? Because you set some sliding scale, which is so, I call it a minimalist approach, all of a sudden we lose all that value. I don't think it makes sense. So the argument are threefold. One, the royalty is one. Yes, we understand that there's a sliding scale, it's fair. But within the context of this conversation, if your predecessor was willing to do 10%, when the profit margin for the company was just 20%, and the profit margin for the company today is 45%, it's like you are saying that I'll give you more concession. It's like going to tell Malcolm and listen to me. Assuming all these companies in Ghana were making 45% profit margin, who wouldn't want to do business in Ghana? Why do you think some companies left the country? Because they couldn't survive.
But then as CSOs,
so if you're taking all this money, and now you are being told that we want to give you further concession because we don't want the investor to feel like, no. Please, the arguments are simple. Situate it within the context of the global dynamics of the conversation we have here. And I don't think it's fair to the minister himself and his own colleagues in Parliament if you can look them in the eye and tell them that this deal is better than the previous one. I really don't think it's so, not at all.
But as CSOs, I'm sure you had audience with the minister, and that's why you even made certain proposals. What was his posture during that meeting? And did he give you any position on the exact rate?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't think the minister himself was in Parliament when we went to have a conversation. But of course, I talked to him on the side. My feeling is that it's not about how you feel, what the body language. It's not about that. It's not about how you feel, how a person responds, gestures or not. It's about the data and the argument. That's all this is all about. If you haven't made those strong arguments, frankly, I don't even see why we should be having the conversation. You see, the company's numbers are what we are basing to do all this conversation. Did you know, madam, that we have not done our own independent feasibility study of this whole lithium thing? We haven't done it. So the figures the minister is mentioning are figures based on the company's data. Who does that in this modern age? Come on. I mean, I follow mineral news on Bloomberg and the rest. Anytime a company is going into some contract with another country, their numbers, they share the numbers and then they discuss. The ministry has not provided one single analysis. Independent feasibility analysis has not been done. So on what basis are you saying, at the end of 3%, we will negotiate? The company can come and tell you that, hey, please, the figures we use, there are some issues, so we'll go back to. So you understand what I'm trying to say?
Okay,
so,
okay.
Look, let's use science in making decisions. The days when we used to say how we feel about how the company would like it, or no, those things are gone. So,
Okay, Franklin, stay with me. Let me just go through the new applicable rates based on the proposal that the Lands Minister has put before Parliament, that ally. When it comes to gold prices, if the gold price is up to $1,900, the royalty applicable is 5%. Now, if it is above $3,000 to $3,500, the royalty applicable is 9%. If it's above $4,500, the royalty applicable is 12%. When it comes to lithium, the royalty applicable per ton, when the price of lithium is up to $1,500, the royalty applicable is 5%. If it is up to $1,501 to $2,500, the royalty applicable is 7%. And that's what we find ourselves now based on global pricing. Now, when it is above $2,501, dollars, I beg your pardon, and $3,000, the royalty applicable is 10%. But above $3,000 and above, the royalty applicable is 12%. But the minority is also of the opinion that indeed this deal will not inure to the benefit of Ghanaians. So let me bring in Akwesi Konedu, his deputy ranking member on the Lands and Natural Resources Committee. We appreciate your time here on Top Story. What exactly is your reservation as the minority?
Yes, thank you very much. A good evening to you and your cherished listeners. First and foremost, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Good. First and foremost, we believe that the minister is not trying to tell us the whole truth. And that in his haste to find something being done, he's just putting up figures together and presenting that to Parliament as a better negotiated agreement. In his withdrawal of the agreement before Parliament, he said the financial terms that were in the agreement was going to be better than what we had. We had about 10% for royalties regardless of where the price would be. But as we speak now, I don't know what analysis the minister and the ministry and the government have done for them to be able to have that better sliding scale agreement in just about 2 months and bring to us in the form of an ally. Do you know one thing? He keeps on telling us and telling the whole country that when we had a negotiated price at 10% for royalties, the lithium prices on the world markets were about 3,000. That is an untruth. If you go onto the world market in 2023 October, when the agreement was actually signed, the average price was 2,200. But my sister, when we actually presented the contract to Parliament for ratification, it was in September 2024. And the price of lithium on the world market has dropped between $800 to $900 per ton. Do you know one thing? The company was still willing and ready to ratify that agreement to the country called Ghana to have the contract to mine lithium in this country. So what can be the justification for us now to peg our royalty figures at a rate of 5% for a price from 0 to 1,500 for lithium? And the third part of it, even if you look on the sliding scale, is that in the last 2 decades, gold prices have never fallen below the mark of $1,040 per ounce. But if you look on the sliding scale, what it tends to be one that will be better for this country currently he's putting the gold price at the first price bandwidth at 0 to 1,900. That is where we are going to get 5%. Isn't that ironical? Look at lithium again. He puts 1,500, about 1,500 to 2,300, then we get 6%. 2,300 above to 3,200, that is where we get 7%. And he's telling them that is a better deal. So assuming without admitting, and he's only basing his argument now on the current prices of gold on the world market and presumably covering that way for the lithium. But be that as it may, my sister, when the price was 800, the people were willing. Now we are moving towards 1,200 per ton. So are you telling me that you are going to use the present to justify the future and shortchange the lives and the financial outlays that will come to Ghana on the basis that because the prices of metals on the world market will never be stable?
So the minority will not back this ally?
You see, that is why they've rushed into laying it today so that the mandatory 21 days will start counting from now. That when we rise today and we come back, say, in January, it will continue from there. And you know what would happen? With an LI being laid, it requires 21 sitting days to mature. If you would want to take the LI off, you need 2/3 of the members of parliament to vote against it. Because they know they have the numbers of 189. It will be impossible to have the 2/3 to go against it. So he's managed, and they've managed to lay it today so that the 21 days counts from today. I would urge every single person that the haste in which we are trying to run, the minister is trying to run these deals through parliament because of the numbers will not be beneficial to the country Ghana and its people. It will be inimical to our progress.
So you're disagreeing with the legislative instrument.
We must be very careful how we
You disagree with the legislative instrument, but you lack the powers to do anything about it. Is that the case?
Yes, because now they've laid it, and it's going to take 21 days. You know, when it's 5 days to maturity, that is where we get the opportunity to debate it. In debating it, and you make a strong argument, it has to take 2/3 of the members of parliament in total to rise up and vote against the LI for it to be withdrawn. It is not just like bringing the argument for ratification that the minister can withdraw, but this is a legislative instrument covered under the Constitution and also under our standing orders, which requires 21 sitting days to mature. So once it's laid, it's laid. Up until you get 2/3 members voting against it. And they know we aren't going to get a 2/3, so they just push the truth to them so that it can start counting from today. This is very inimical to the country, Ghana, and our financial. The minister told us he was going to bring us an agreement that will be beneficial to us. My sister, let him tell us. Let him add to the airline that he's bought. Any analysis that he's done in terms of pricing, in terms of projection, and in terms of all of those benefits, none. Just because you believe some other countries may have done that, you just put that and you just draw it down to a country called Ghana. I believe that we must start the advocacy from now. You must all help us. Because if this thing passes, it will be inimical to this country.
Thank you, Akwesi Kunedu. He's Deputy Ranking Member on the Lands and Natural Resources Committee. Let me wrap up with Franklin Kujo. What would you advise government do at this point in time, really?
Is this a question for me?
Indeed, yes.
Well, listen, before I even go ahead, the figures I've just heard, they are just voodoo figures. You know, the funny thing is that the minister suggests that the 1,005 cutoff point is what will give us, 5%? When currently it's 1,002 the company is making 45%. I think if you look, and either way you look at the figures, I don't know where you plug those figures from. They sound very outrageous and outlandish. The comparison is gold. Sorry, the comparison with gold is very funny. This is a special mineral. This is not like gold. You understand? So please, anyway, the advice I want to give the ministry is that look, they should go back and do the basic analysis properly and come and convince Ghanaians. This should not be railroaded through Parliament. Indeed, if it does, it would have been the first undoing of the NDC government when it comes to resource protection and resource use for the country. I feel strongly that this bill is indeed a terrible one.
Thank you so much. Franklin Kujo is president of Imani Africa. Earlier, I spoke to the deputy ranking member on the Lands and Natural Resource Committee, Akwesi Kunedu. And that's how we wrap up Top Story. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. I'm handing over the baton to